Welcome to the Saturday Morning Muse, everyone. I'm Andy Tempty, and today is April the 29th, 2023. We're going to spend today's Muse discussing a company's most valuable asset, its people. We're going to discuss this through the lens of mergers, acquisitions, and the customer. First, I'm going to tell a customer service story, and then I'm going to tie that story into a question that leaders should be asking themselves whenever a merger or acquisition is contemplated. But first, the story. We are all consumers of the internet, and most of us have troubled relationships with internet service providers around the country, especially as it relates to customer service. Last year, a longtime internet service provider here in Crosse, Wisconsin, was acquired by another company. I'm not going to name any names, but if you do a little research and put two and two together, you'll figure out the business I'm talking about. Anyway, the provider that was acquired had pledged to its customers that they would enjoy a fixed rate for as long as they were customers of the company. This was a promise that wouldn't last long. Not long after the acquisition was complete, the acquiring company required that we switch to their billing system, their way of working. When I got on the phone with a customer service rep to ask about the promise the previous firm had made, the rep said, "Yeah, no, we're not honoring that." We proceeded to go around and around, as I was not going to let a broken promise go unchallenged. As you might expect, I got passed from one customer service rep to another, each time having to restate the issue along with my account information. As an aside, it's 2023. Shouldn't we be at the point where I shouldn't have to repeat myself after being passed between reps? My experience is just another poignant reminder that internal customer service software is one of the last things that companies invest in modernizing. You'd think that management of an oft-maligned industry like internet service providers would get the message that investing in tech stack modernization to help smooth out customer interactions would be good for business and their reputation. But alas, I won't hold my breath for this message to be received and understood. It must keep getting stuck in management spam folder. Ha. Oh, and don't worry. I wasn't a jerk to the customer service reps I talked to. I shouldn't say never. I am seldom a jerk to a customer service rep because I know it's not their problem. They didn't make terrible business decisions. It's almost always somebody way up the food chain that made a decision that gets customers riled up, creating the conditions for challenging conversations that are left with customer service reps to navigate. Anyway, back to the story. Multiple calls went nowhere because the reps I talked to were not properly trained to deal with the question that I was asking. Promises that I would receive a call back from a leader of the company to explain why the pricing promise wasn't being honored went unfulfilled. Cowards. I was getting frustrated, and the reps I spoke to were getting frustrated. In the end, nobody's happy, and a terrible customer service experience ensues. The company's reputation is damaged, sometimes irretrievably. Anyway, we resolved the situation to the extent that it could be resolved. While I'm not getting that flat rate for life any longer, I did get a discount that will last for a 5-year period. The point is that it should not have taken that much time and energy on both of our parts to reach an amicable solution. Customer service reps should be empowered to make decisions on behalf of the customer. This is a lesson I learned the hard way during my career. I didn't always value the expertise of frontline personnel and didn't always listen to their concerns and feedback as closely as I should have. So here's lesson number 1 today. If you're a leader, listen to what your frontline personnel are telling you about what your customers are saying. Actively listen. Meet them on their turf. Tune in directly to customer conversations and show you care by taking action to improve the experience of your customers. Taking action will result in improved working conditions for your frontline colleagues as well. Now, let's move on to the question that I alluded to at the top of the Muse. Do leaders and executives who plan for and initiate mergers and acquisitions think about the customer first and foremost? As a leader who has made acquisition decisions in the past, I can attest to the fact that the customer is usually one of the last things that people are thinking about when they're trying to knit together two different companies. When contemplating a merger or acquisition, leaders do consider improved profitability and growth, but seldom fully take into account the integration challenges that ensue once you begin to put two businesses together. Rose-colored glasses are used in financial projections, and integration challenges are downplayed in pre-acquisition memos and documentation. The reality is that business integrations are maddeningly difficult and that the customer typically suffers, as do the people of both the acquirer and the acquired. Case in point from our example at the top of the Muse is the pricing commitment that was made by previous management at the previous company. Some team sitting in a fancy office light years away from the customer made the decision that they weren't going to live up to that commitment. All of a sudden, everybody else has to pick up the slack to accommodate for that decision. Employees aren't happy, customers aren't happy, and a significant portion of the prospective value of the merger evaporates and or becomes much harder to realize. The executives who led the transaction scratch their head and say, "Why aren't the economics of this transaction working the way that we expected them to?" The answer is that the customer was not first and foremost in pre-acquisition decision-making. So here's lesson number 2. If you're a leader and have any influence over merger or acquisition decisions that are happening at your company, make sure that the customer is at or near the top of the decision matrix. Who else should be at or near the top of the list when making decisions about mergers and acquisitions? Your people resources. Now, any company's most valuable asset is their people, both customers and employees. However, your people and the customer are usually not top of mind when we contemplate mergers and acquisitions. I've seen a lot of value destroyed over my career when those two things, the customer and the employees, are not put top of mind. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend.